And welcome back. This is Suike Nova's continuing this playthrough of Hyperdimension Neptunia. Right now we're in the LaStation area and we're pretty much picking up where we left off before. So effectively, what Shion wants to do is she wants to continue trying to create whatever she's trying to create. So she sends you out to get the weapon. She sends you out to get the materials for the thing, for whatever thing she's trying to create, which we will see soon. So effectively, you have to go hunt down some monsters. You don't even have to hunt down some monsters. What you need to do is you need to get to the exit of the next dungeon, and then you'll reach the shop where you learn a little bit more about Shion's backstory. The reason why you're seeing IF here is because I actually recorded all of this footage all at the same time, and it turned out to be that this entire part was an hour and 5 minutes, and no one wants to hear me drone on and on and on about this game for an hour and 5 minutes, so I decided to cut it into two different 30-minute increments. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about that I left off at before. I don't really necessarily think so, so we're just going to continue on with the story. This would be... Will this be a good point in time to talk about the item? Nah, never mind. I'm actually just talking to myself because there's not really a lot to talk about at this particular portion. You're just going to the shop so you can learn more about Shion and get some items that she needs to create whatever she's working on. I could go over a little bit of the battle system. So, as you can see here, well, you can't really see it. It's easier to show in a video later. Every character sort of has their own effectiveness in battle and different things that you can use, and there's 4 different types of attacks, effectively. You have regular physical attacks, which majority of the time is what you're going to see. Then you have shot attacks, which take the place of your magic attacks. You have actual magic attacks, which you probably will never ever use, and then you have your sort of action physical attacks, which pretty much only the goddesses use, and you will see all of those eventually in a video later. So now you finally met Chevra, or whatever his name is, and he's supposed to be giving you the parts that you need to create the items that you want, or the item that Shion wants. And it turns out that Chevra used to work with her father until he ended up dying and Shion took over, and yes, that is a little bit of a spoiler, but they tell you here, and plus, we kind of sort of break the fourth wall a little bit, and it's not really breaking the fourth wall, but it's more of a parody. In situations like this, the father that the daughter has to take over for normally has died to some random accident. They even mentioned that it is cliche, and it kind of is. You get used to it. But this guy, effectively, he used to work in a factory, but once Avenir started getting big, he left along with a whole bunch of other people, and he set up this shop, and when Shion took over, and she started trying to rebuild it up, her mother asked him to come back, and he was already too invested in the shop, so he decided not to. And at this point in time, Neptune and everyone really resolves to take down Avenir. And this is where they explain why Avenir gets to do whatever they want to. Since they own the majority of the market, they stand for the majority of the residents. And since they stand for the majority of the residents, the parliament has to listen to them. So effectively, they have their hands in parliament's back pocket, and they're working together. It's dirty business is what it is. So you find out a little bit of why everything's going on, why everything's happening the way it is. And thus Neptune doesn't really want to help Avenir because she feels that they're evil and they should be able to take care of it themselves if they're so big. But Avenir doesn't make anything that humans can use because the president doesn't like humans. However, Kampa says that, hey, this person's not a bad person, we should help them anyway, and effectively you do go help them, and just a little bit of a spoiler jumping ahead, this person is a bad person, we should let them die. Because he will be your main bad guy for this particular portion. And actually the entire LaStation portion, really. More running through a dungeon, and as you can see, yeah, here's where you start getting pretty repetitive. You're doing the same thing over and over again. You don't really have a lot of freedom, but still the main game's focus is the events. The events are what drives this game to be fun, and sadly you won't see a lot of these events. The party that you see here is actually fairly balanced for battle. You have Neptune, who's your all-around character, but you should be using her for physical attacks. If you're not using her for physical attacks, you're using her wrong. You have IF, who is pretty much a long combo fighter, and a lot of her weapons, as you get further and further into the game, cause status effects, which are very useful. And then you have Kampa. Kampa is your shot type because her intelligence is much higher than her strength. So effectively, what you will be using her for is you can use her for spells if you really want to. What I tended to use her for was elemental shots, and the reason why you want to use her for elemental shots and combos is because it helps you break enemies' guards easier. When you break their guard, their defense drops. It makes it a lot easier to take them down. However, there's a downside to using Kampa as your break. And I will go over that in the actual battle video. Now, Neptune actually does look so different from her normal form that you can actually mistake Neptune as a different person. This is the reason why I actually treat her as a different person after she transforms. Unlike the other goddesses who actually look fairly similar to their original forms. There might be some hair color changes, but that's about it. Now he reveals something. He reveals that the Tech Expo is still going on, even though the news has been made public and no one really knows at this point. So you learn a little bit more about Avenir. What they did was they said it was canceled, so all the other companies will stop working, but it's actually still going. It's really, really dirty. It's a power play. They're trying to run all the other factories out of business. Now, right after that dungeon, you're actually going to run into Blackheart again. And when you're first playing through this game, she's actually fairly difficult because she does deal a decent amount of damage, but as long as you have a good amount of items for your item skills, she's most likely not going to take you down. In this fight, I'm actually going to do the very first Neptune Transformation that I've done in the entire game, which is kind of sad. We are an hour and 10 minutes into the game, and I'm about to use the very first Neptune Transformation. And you don't necessarily have to if you're this far along, but I am because I want to show off Neptune's other attack. And this attack is very interesting. It deals a ton of damage, but it takes up a lot of your AP as well. And your AP is what you use to run your skills. This is the transformation sequence for Neptune. I'll be quiet. Now, if you notice, unlike all the other CPUs that you've seen, my transformation doesn't match like it did in the first section. You can actually customize your transformation with different parts as you go along in the game. You get more and more parts. The way that you customize your CPU determines how your stats change, because your stats do change heavily when you transform, as well as they increase or decrease your actual base stats when you're in the transform state. This is both good and bad, because you can create a very powerful character that's not very fast, and that tends to be the trade-off. You use agility for your power, or vice versa. You can gain more agility and defense is rather pointless in this game, so don't bother with it. Then a powerful character. This really does not make sense. But it breaks the fourth wall. This isn't actually happening. So I have my Neptune customized for power while not sacrificing too much of her speed. However, you're most likely not going to see that transformation again until pretty much the end of the game. Now apparently this person, who is Blackheart, we already saw their names in the very beginning, so I'm not spoiling anything, does know who Neptune is, and Neptune wants to know who she is, but she won't tell her, so she attempts to run off in a second. And she's very proud of her area, which she should. She's the goddess, the patron unit of this area, so of course she should be proud of this area. And she gets mad and she runs off when they said that the technology in planet Neptune was capable of something that LaStation wasn't. And Neptune's transformation drops out. And in this game, you won't drop out of your transformation in battle unless you happen to lose Neptune. She gets knocked out. That's about the only way that you will lose her. So they let Xion know that the expo is still going, and then they hear it on the radio that it's supposed to still be going, and it's sponsored by the Parliament, which means that Avenir's still playing dirty. They're trying to make themselves seem a lot better so they can run all the other companies out of business and control everything. Now, the expo's theme is weapon. Excuse me. The reason for this is important, but I can't explain what Avenir is actually making. Not yet. Xion herself actually is making a weapon as well. You do get this weapon. It's one of the very few weapons that actually gets taken out of your inventory at the end of the game. So it does sort of have story. It's actually important to the story, but not really. You also learn that Avenir isn't very human friendly. Most of the work is done by machines. Humans pretty much just run the errands. They look down on humans. Here we have someone, Ganache, the person that we saved, meets Noir, and he calls her Blackheart. So they've already given you all the connections to let you know that this is the goddess. This is her human form. And there's a secret meeting, and Noir wants to get rid of Neptune. And he's actually a part of the guild. And remember what I said before, the guild are a group of people who actually likes a different goddess than the one that they were born from, so they're kind of known as heretics. The guild is more important in Leanbox and Laowi. They're only slightly mentioned here. but it is more important as we go further into the story. So if you do lean box before you do this, you know a lot more about the guild than at this point in time.
アブニール関係者の代理だ。仕事の内容の説、今回は指定したもん。なんで会社がもしかしたら毛皮とモンスターの毛皮を取引するやつ、どうしても詳しく知りたかったら。
So we got a new job and we're going into a factory. Is it a factory? It's either a factory or a cave. I don't even remember anymore. It's a factory. We're going into a factory to kill some monsters. And there's a reason why we're going to kill their monsters. They do need something from them for Avenir, I believe. And it's only a boss conquest, so you just need to get to the end and defeat the boss and then you're good. Should I talk more about the battles? Yes, so we'll talk a little bit more about the battles. There is an elemental weakness part to this game, and it's kind of important. You have 5 different types of bullets. You can actually see it on the right side. You have non-elemental, fire, wind, water, and earth bullets. And these different bullets actually hit enemies in different ways. Every enemy is weak to an element type. This includes the goddesses when you fight them. The goddesses are all weak to elements when you fight them. And majority of the time they turn out to be weak to fire, but it's useful your first run around. After that, it's not really important. When you fight, spoiler, when you fight the goddesses one-on-one, if you want to fight the goddesses one-on-one as Neptune, you can use elemental bullets to break their guards, but there's not really too much of a point. At that point in time, if you have the level, you should just stick with Neptune breaking guarding. And guarding is important to the game. Earlier, you will probably guard very rarely. Later on in the game, you will guard quite a lot. And the more AP you have when you start the guard, the less damage that you actually take. If you don't guard at all, some enemies can one-shot you. Or some bosses can one-shot you. Actually, some enemies are. There are some pretty powerful enemies that you'll run into. I haven't actually talked about the music in this game, and there's a reason why. When I first started playing this game, way back when I first got it, I listened to a lot of the themes in LaStation, and the music was very boring and laid back in my opinion. Even the battle theme just kind of was meh, so I turned off the music and listened to my own music when I played this game. And that's kind of bad for a JRPG because you're going to hear a lot of music and it should be good. So Neptune's being antagonistic toward the Avenir employee because she doesn't want to help them, and you can't really blame her. Now they're asking, now you find out why you needed to defeat this creature. This creature's nervous tissue actually works as a sort of semiconductor. Which, if you know anything about ICs, then you know what semiconductors do. And it's really important for whatever Avenir is building. So let's think. Oh, hey, he doesn't trust humans, and it's about weaponry, so I doubt it has anything to do with humans. And you would be correct. I accidentally slipped up and went to the gallery here. Here we get a little bit of a little insight. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. A little insight into the mind of Blackheart, and you can see that Blackheart actually goes off on tangents when she starts thinking about things, and she will lose what she's actually trying to get into, and that's the reason why she actually says she has a one-track mind. And that's the downside to this goddess. She doesn't really ignore her people, but she will go off on a tangent and think about something and completely miss what she's actually supposed to be doing. And you will see this more if you happen to recruit her.
ネッポの後でもつけてきたの？違うわ。私はそう、ネプテューヌ。あなたもネプネプ狙いです。でも、いいわ。
And before, Blackheart was all like, "Hey, you're terrible for involving humans," but now she wants to defeat the humans as well that are in her party.
任せて。こんなやつ、私一人で十分。
And another critical edge ending. I actually like this animation a lot. I don't necessarily know why. It feels more cinematic than a lot of the other ones. It's a great cinematic. I actually like it. There's a few other moves that are really cool looking, but they aren't really worth using once you have Neptune Break and you have the AP to abuse it. However, in this particular case, she runs, but she doesn't get far. This is actually really important. You get to see, you spend a little bit of time with the goddess, Noir. So Neptune chases after her. Well, they're all chasing after her, and Neptune's chasing after her because she really still wants to find out who she is. And it's kind of interesting because the game turns it around later, and Neptune starts to not want to know who she is anymore. And it's probably because the newfound identity that she's found during this game. So it does have a little bit of a build of her personality where she changes from this person who wants to find out who she is, and she always wants to be a hero no matter what, so that doesn't really change. But it's different. There's so many things I want to explain about this game but I can't get too far ahead of myself. Here you see Noir calls Neptune by her name, and Neptune completely glosses over that. But she's still looking for Noir's goddess form, and she kind of talks down to her, but she doesn't let her drag herself out. I don't know why. I'm all over the place right now. And she's still hurting, everything like that. So Neptune, being the hero that she is, wants to get her treated and take care of her. So we're going to personify the quote-unquote bad guy of this area, because you do fight her as a boss a few times. So let's go ahead and personify her a bit. Even though you never find out her name, even though it's been mentioned a few times in other people's dialogue, so whatever. Neptune offers to take her back home, and Noir's kind of worried that she'll find out who she is, so she doesn't let her take her back home, and she acts like she has amnesia just like Neptune does. And interestingly enough, they say they shouldn't involve outsiders, but they want her in their party for a while, and you don't get to use Noir at this point in time, which is actually kind of too bad, because Noir is, after Neptune, probably the second best physical fighter that you're going to come across. You do have Compa, but Compa doesn't deal nearly as much damage as Noir does. So it's kind of interesting how they won't let her fight, and she's more powerful than anyone else in the party except for Neptune herself. And I really would have loved to have had Noir in my party, because she does make things a lot easier. She's also one of the very few people who's actually faster than Neptune, even though Ayapa is faster than Neptune, depending on what kind of weapon you're using. And weapons we'll get into when I break down battles as well, but that's way into the future. And then they mess around for a bit.
じゃあ行ってくるから鍵はお願い。あと食事は自由に取っちゃっていいから。それからもし思い出したら私たちのことは気にせず。
Naif makes that statement, and it's a really weird statement, especially considering something that happens in the end.
そういえば深海にはなかったな。
Oh, at the end of the LaStation area that you can take care of it now. IF says if you remember who you are, you can go ahead and leave. You don't even have to say goodbye. And later, Noir actually does that. She does exactly that later. And it turns out I'm saving here because I was decided to break it for here and continue going, but there's another part that comes right after this, so I'll probably I won't cut this out. But IF is a little hurt that she leaves so abruptly. But here we get to see Neptune and Noir talk amongst each other, amongst themselves. And Noir knows a little bit of what Neptune's doing, but she doesn't know exactly what she's doing. All she knows is she was looking for a key. Neptune explains that she wants to save Histoire, wherever she is, and no one else can hear her except for Neptune. And actually all the goddesses should be able to hear her, but they're all so focused on fighting each other and their own worries to worry about Histoire, which they really should be worried about Histoire. And Noir makes a statement, and you should already see this coming, that she says a goddess should be able to focus on multiple things at the same time. And it's a statement against herself, but it's a statement against Neptune as well. She's aware that Neptune is the goddess of planet Neptune, but Neptune doesn't remember that. And it's a statement against herself because she actually has a one-track mind. And here, you kind of sort of get the feeling that Noir doesn't hate Neptune as much as it seemed in the very beginning. And a lot of the goddesses are actually that way. They don't really hate each other. Yeah, they don't really hate each other, even though you might confuse one of them for hating Neptune with the way that she talks to her, but that's just the way she is. And this question kind of sort of changes, even though with the humor setup, it kind of changes the way that Neptune starts to think. She asks if Neptune ever wanted to become a goddess, because she doesn't remember she's a goddess. And she says she wants to save people, so wouldn't you want to become a goddess? And Neptune actually responds with no. She'd have to leave her friends, and she has to live in Celestia and read and govern. I don't know why Reed has to do anything with it, but with the way that Neptune is, you can start to see it coming. And you kind of see Noir's motivations for doing what she wants to do. She is the goddess, and she wants to protect and rule everything. And that's effectively what all the goddesses want to do. They want to protect and rule their own lands, and eventually the whole entire world, essentially. And that's what they were told to do when they were born. Sorry about the spoiler, but that's really the whole entire point to it. After that statement, she leaves. Neptune falls asleep. Compa comes in, wakes Compa up. Compa comes in and wakes Neptune up, and you find her asleep. And this makes Neptune a little sad. And this is the sad part. IF is a little sad. Well, IF feels that it's a little cold that she only left a note instead of actually saying goodbye. Even though earlier she said, if you need to leave, go ahead and leave. And Neptune is actually a little bit upset that her friend left. And there's probably a little bit more to it. There's more to it than it seems. It's not just that she's loose that her friend left, someone who is just like her, but they're actually closer to sisters, all the goddesses. And yes, another spoiler. But yeah, they're closer to sisters than anything else. This is actually the final event I believe, that you can actually take care of in LaStation. So this is actually the last part that we're going to go over before we move into the next part, which I'll be uploading sometime next week, whenever I get the footage recorded and actually feel like talking over it, because at this point in time I've been talking for about an hour and I'm tired. But effectively, whoever wins, using quotations because you can't see my fingers, whoever wins the Tech Expo gets a gift from the goddess, and it's a lot of accolades. And if someone can win over Avenir effectively, it'll show. If someone shows up Avenir, then all the other factors can come back together, and it's no longer a monopoly. And Xian wants the party to not only test but to demonstrate her weaponry. Not like an actual booth babe, which the way that they say it is, I'm not even going to explain that, but effectively what you're going to do is you're going to get a weapon out of this. And IF doesn't really want to, but Neptune and Compa want to, because weapons do get expensive in this game. When you're playing this game and you're first going through it, the weapons get really expensive. Actually, everything's pretty expensive in this game, because the way that you earn the majority of your money is by finishing dungeons, and if you don't grind dungeons, you probably won't get it. But even still, new weapons don't come out that often. They only come out as you finish dungeons and you finish story missions. Here, Xian gives you your new weapon, which is the Mech Sword Armus. It's just the test version of it, and it's actually probably the worst weapon. It's actually probably the worst weapon in the game at this point. It's actually worse than the wooden sword that you start off with. And she gives it to you with the purpose of testing it. And what you could do is you could equip it and run around with it, but it doesn't advance the story at all. And there's no point in equipping it because the story doesn't change whether or not you equip it or not. So just keep your best weapon on and continue going forward. But that's the end of everything that you can do for LaStation. So I'm going to do one last thing before I end this video. I'm going to show, well, two last things. I'm going to show what the Mecha Sword, the Armus test model looks like. And I thought I had the Mecha Sword Armus in my equipment, but it turns out I don't. So I can't show that one off. I can't show that off until we come back to LaStation to finish this area up. So we're going to go ahead and go to Lean Box and start the next part of the story. And Lean Box is governed by a very interesting goddess. She's actually probably got my favorite character out of all of them. Not my favorite design. My favorite design goes to Noir, but my favorite personality character-wise. And she reminds me of someone that I know and who's quite fun. But anyway, we'll get more into the Lean Box goddess in the next episode. And by the way, all these dungeons that travel back and forth between the different lands are very basic and bottom level, and really good for your bottom level. So it doesn't matter where you go. It's not like you shouldn't go to Laui first, because this game is very wide. You can go to Laui first, and then go to LaStation, then go to Lean Box, and that would be my phone. Sorry about that. You can go to Laui first, or LaStation first, or Lean Box first, and go in whatever order that you really want to. It's not like there's a level point that you shouldn't really go to a certain area. We'll go ahead and switch to Compa, even though I went the wrong direction. Compa is who you're going to see walking around for the next section. Anyway, that's pretty much going to be it for this particular episode. I cannot talk at all today. We're entering Lean Box. And Lean Box is actually a very beautiful land in comparison to what LaStation was, which was very steampunky and felt kind of polluted. It's probably it really depends on how you feel about a certain weather condition, but it's probably the first or second prettiest land out of all of them. But anyway, that will be it for this episode. This is Suike Novus, enjoying what you don't.